Hi. So I've been trying some different foods lately. My regular sleeping habit has been like I go to sleep somewhere in the morning or afternoon and wake up between 9 and midnight. I feel like on average I'm sleeping like 12 hours. So I had some, like I thought my kimchi that I bought is like, I guess it's kind of like, maybe it's fermented cabbage. I don't know if fermented's the right word. Anyways, I ate like a piece of the cabbage and it smelled weird. It's just from what I'd read online, I thought, okay, it should still be good. I left it in what I thought was like a cold cabinet for a few days. And then I put it back in the fridge because I thought it was going bad. I took a piece out of it when it had been stored in the cabinet and it was still fine. But now it had kind of gone rancid. I turned the fridge down because it seemed like my eggs were freezing. Anyways, so I ate a piece of the kimchi like an hour ago, and it was like obviously kind of alcoholized by this point. When I put it in my body, and that did not do well. And I've been trying to run mitigation by like eating meat, meat's very low in sugar, depending how it's prepared, but still lower than other things. I try to cut a lemon because if I eat lemons when I've had too much sugar, then I'm so tired. But I'm not tired because I didn't sleep. I'm tired because I ate a piece of overdue kimchi. So it's always been confusing to me how my body operates, but like as I've eliminated like most food groups, I'm starting to have memories of how I felt about like bread, for instance, growing up. I always liked my mom's homemade bread, but mostly because I liked the texture and flavor of the butter on the bread, and the white bread she would make didn't have like added sugar in it. And that always felt pretty decent in my body, but when I would eat like the regular packaged wheat bread from stores or white bread, it wasn't so great on my system. I think that stuff has emulsifiers in it, is why it interacts differently with my body. It has all these sort of preservatives so it can't sit on the shelf without molding. Like regular wheat or white bread, if you make it only really lasts a few days before it gets hard unless you put it in the fridge. But either way, it starts to get pretty weird in texture. There was a bread company in the town I grew up in, and I liked getting the bread from that place because it would like feel really good in my body. even like the bread that had like caramelized apple on it, because it was like made fresh, it didn't interact with my body in a negative way. I felt like I had eaten some sugar, but I think I'm going to be able to start to add some other things in to my diet, but I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to eat like things with processed sugar. It's not like the breads had no effect, but like I would do better with just plain bread, even though I liked the bread with nuts and seeds, and my mom said that was like supposed to be better for you, but it didn't feel better in my body. And even though I like the texture of butter with like homemade bread, I feel like it makes my body feel weak, even though I can, well, I don't know that I could digest it that well, but it would do less harm to my body than processed bread. So this is one thing I remember. We would always get sandwiches from okay, so I was allowed to make a sandwich with 2 pieces of processed bread and 2 pieces of deli turkey, regular shaved. But I wasn't allowed to put any more meat on it than that. So sometimes my mom would walk out of the kitchen and I would eat another piece of meat or 2. Because she wouldn't notice that amount missing. I felt like I was pressing my luck with 2 pieces, but I would eat it if I had time before she came back in the kitchen. Or if she walked back in while I was still chewing, I would just go and hold it in my mouth and breathe through like the back of my throat and like let it come up my nose. I suppose some of these things are how I learned to sing really well, because I could control my breathing. But it was kind of psycho. I understand why my mom did it, because I'm sure that she grew up in a family with some amount of food scarcity or restrictions on what you were allowed to eat. But my mom got a lot of money from her parents, and that's what I was told. So, I just wish she had bought more food. And I wasn't allowed to eat like food that made me feel good. So I got used to eating bread and thought, okay, I'm supposed to eat bread and pasta and all this shit. But it's never made me feel good. It might really work in some people's digestion, but not mine. And it's like sad to me, like that I feel like I can't eat bread anymore. But if I'm being honest, and no part of me ever really wanted to eat bread. I just had to eat bread to and get full, I felt. But I wonder if my body wouldn't have just worked better if I ate the amount of meat I was allowed on a daily basis. But I was never really allowed to eat more than 1 poached egg. On occasion, I could get away with it. So I'd eat like a poached egg and bread for breakfast on say the weekend before I went to school, I never ate breakfast. Sometimes. But it was just like we were always running, like, I guess on average, 35 to 45 minutes late to school. And I would get punished and not be able to go to recess. And I have a lot of compassion for my mom now about why she did the things she did. I mean, she was always living in like scarcity and survival, you know? But it just made it also so that those were the habits she instilled in me. So that when I was raising my son, although I had tons of food in the fridge, most of it made me feel sick. Just like when I was growing up. And because they weren't food groups that I could handle with having a sensitive stomach. So I would try to force myself to eat the foods in the fridge when I was raising my son. And I was like, why do I never want to eat vegetables? Well, we barely had any vegetables available growing up. The vegetables we would eat were potatoes and carrots and cabbage. Probably because they don't go bad quickly. And those are still the vegetables that agree with my body the best. So it wasn't all bad. It's just I would notice like I could kind of purify my body to some degree from having eaten the bread. So it's like my body's always had trouble processing sugars. And I'm like, okay, so this food pyramid size, you're supposed to eat fruits and vegetables. There's a lot of grains here. I'm like, okay, so I would try to like put the food pyramid over my own knowledge of what my body needs. Because apparently other people know better than you know about your body, which not true. But we all have different needs as to what works in our bodies, I imagine. So I've been hesitant to eat potatoes though, because I think although the internet says it has barely any sugar, like barely any sugar in a potato, I don't think my body really likes potatoes. Carrots are even a bit of a stretch. So I'm like, am I supposed to just eat meat? And I can deal with like fermented things. Like olives make me feel good to some degree, but that's a lot of foods that make me feel good to some degree. Because they'll have some of the nutrition I need that will go to my brain, but then my stomach can't process them. But so I got some green olives with like blue cheese inside. And those seemed really good. So I'm having to retrain myself to eat all of the things that I had wanted to eat as a child but were restricted or not available. Like, meat has always done really well in my body. I also feel good when I vitamins and water and drink that. I just got pretty frustrated about how when I tried to describe what was happening in my body, my doctors just said stupid shit and really didn't understand the gravity of how little energy I have, even though I would tell them I sleep the majority of the day and otherwise I barely have any energy. Like, what do they think that means? If, like, a normal person said that, would it mean something different? I mean, is there a better way to say barely have any energy? Like, are most people exaggerating when they say that? I think compared to me, my guess is they're just saying they're tired and exhausted. I'm saying that I'm, like, incapacitated in multiple ways. At that point, I was saying, like, my back always hurts between my shoulder blades. I feel like there's, like, an energy depletion happening right here along that bone, like a weakness. I'm also saying my heart feels like there's something off. It's beating weirdly and it always aches, and that's not purely emotional. I'm saying my head feels weird here, it hurts. I'm saying my face always aches in multiple locations. I'm saying I have a tingly, tickly sensation in my nose. I'm saying my jawbone hurts here, 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 here. Any place there are bones on my body, there is some level of pain. And I told her I have joint pain, so she did test me for osteoporosis. No, that's not what she tested me for. She tested me for rheumatoid arthritis, I think, which I don't have. Okay, so a positive note. I did eat some rice yesterday, which I don't think was great, but it's pretty hard adjusting to just eating meat. I have been eating some peppers that they sell in the jar at the store. I don't know what process is used, but they're not jalapenos. It's a yellow pepper. I'm eating some of those because it will, like, speed up my heartbeat. I always have low blood pressure, so I think that also means that my heart doesn't pump blood really sufficiently through my system, and that's part of why I have trouble walking. It's not really insufficient strength. It's a mix of, like, back aches and back pains, but even with those, I would be able to walk, so it's mostly like this sort of dizziness and weakness that I feel throughout my upper body. I do get enough blood supply through my legs more often than my upper body. So, like, if my legs weren't doing, like, all the work, then I wouldn't be able to stand up. But I'm extremely dizzy right now, and I feel weak even though I'm laying down. And I know I shouldn't have my head propped up on a pillow, but I wanted to be entertained, and if I just hold the phone above me, my arm starts to hurt, so I have to hold it at an angle or rest it on like the area where I would wear a belt and hold it with my wrist. And that's somehow like easier than pressing it on occasion. Like, I used to have a tool that would hold my phone up for me, but I barely used it because the setup costed more energy than it was worth, and I'd have to like tighten something on it, which was difficult for my wrist. There was a period in my life where this sort of stuff was easier. But I've always had to kind of keep up a certain pace walking or I get dizzy. I'm assuming because if you keep up a certain pace walking, your heartbeat is faster. So I was getting more blood flow. So that's always the kind of problem I've had. It was a little strange because I went to the doctor to get tested for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which seemed to describe basically every symptom I experience. And when I'd go from, because they had me laying down on I think you call those things a gurney in the hospital. And they had me, maybe it was my resting heart rate was high. I don't know, but either way, when I was like resting or sitting up, there was a very high heart rate. And then it went back to normal at some point after I was moving on the treadmill. I was pretty fucking dizzy when I was moving, but my heart rate stabilized, which seems to be like contradictory, but so it sometimes seems like I can't win whatever I do because my body has so many like weird eccentricities of how it behaves, but like so do I as an individual. I don't always feel as bad as I feel right now, as weak or dizzy, but it's because I ate the fermented piece of cabbage that had gone bad. So, I mean, just trying to learn as I go. Like, maybe I have something that's like the opposite of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which they call POTS for short.